Welcome to another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Tuesday, January 31st. Ian Cameron, Conor Mack. We've lived through Monday already, and we're on Tuesday now and breaking down a bigger slate than we had yesterday. The less said about that Syracuse-Virginia ending, the better. I don't know how that game stayed under, but somehow it did. That was extremely
Yeah,
aggravating.
that
Yeah.
was first half. I thought it's
Flying
a
over the
coast,
total. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the game lands right on 5. That's why
Yeah.
glad as much as I like Syracuse, we talked about I needed the 6.5, 7 to feel comfortable. But hey,
It is what it
let's
is,
roll.
though. Absolutely.
It
The
was a
good news
decent
is,
day though, all around.
as unlucky as that game was, Texas Tech was equally lucky in the other
Oh, how about
direction.
that? Yeah,
How about
there's
that? So it all evens out in the end as they come roaring back from 20 points down to beat Iowa State last night. Thrilling comeback by the Red Raiders. Brutal loss if you're the Cyclones. But anyway, enough about
yep.
last night. Let's get to today. We'll start with SEC action on this Tuesday. Mississippi State, South Carolina. We've got Mississippi State 9.5-point road favorites, 126.5 the total in this one. I mean, if you're Mississippi State, you're looking at give them credit. They had a nice, solid performance over the weekend in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Look, it's been a rough go for this squad under Chris Jans, 5 straight losses, but they somehow beat TCU 81-74 in overtime. They almost blew it because they were leading, and TCU came back on them. But Mississippi State rescued themselves in overtime, and now they will play this South Carolina team that's obviously had their share of struggles, and that's putting it mildly. They're actually on a run at home on their home floor where they're 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. I'm not going to belabor this game. It's a pass for me. I have no interest in either side.
Yeah.
I'd actually play South Carolina before I'd play Mississippi State in this game. This does feel like letdown spot. And Mississippi State, are they good enough to be almost laying 10 on the road? I'm not so sure. If I had to, I'd take South Carolina, but I don't have to. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think this is ugly. Hold the nose with South Carolina, but I don't want to get really involved. But that's where I'd be. The big win. We'll get into TCU later, but Mississippi State, the win there. Obviously, in a game like that with their defense, you'd look under. 3 out of the last 4, they've taken care of them, kind of blown them out. Man, it's ugly. When a team's so bad scoring wise, it's just, I know they're at home. That's why I think you hold your nose and take them. If you want this, do that. But if not, stay off. Because Mississippi State playing a little bit better, but on the road, no way. SC, do I want to lay a 10 spot like you just said? No way.
No way indeed. All right, VCU and Davidson now. We go to the A10. VCU 3.5-point road favorites, 136.5 being the total in this game. I mean, to me, when you look at Davidson here, we've seen this team show you some, could they step up in class here in this conference? Against better competition? That's the question I certainly had going into the game that they played last Friday against St. Louis. And they sure enough, they were pretty good in that game much of the way, especially early. But St. Louis, just the better team, rose to the top, if you will. And St. Louis came back to win 74-70 against Davidson in that game. I mean, I'd probably look to VCU or nothing here. In fact, I do like VCU a little bit here, laying the short number on the road, just because I think you're going to get this VCU team focused after a loss at home against St. Bonaventure in their last game, 61-58. Sometimes, pretty good basketball teams like this, you need a loss basically to get you back on track, get you refocused. I think that could be the case here for VCU. You look at the Davidson squad, they're still middle of the pack, not great defensively. And this VCU team is definitely a solid offensive team when you look at it. Should be able to score the basketball here on them. VCU, the better defensive team. Davidson, still some struggles at times, not as quite good on the offensive end as we've seen in the past. And I know we've seen Davidson trend under lately, a lot of unders, in fact, but I think this one will actually go over the total, and I agree with the total going up. And here's why. A lot of the unders with Davidson, Dayton, plotting team, okay offensively. George Mason, plotting team, okay offensively. Richmond, same thing. Not a great offensive team. They don't push pace. LaSalle stinks offensively, so don't worry about Davidson going under the total with them. they finally played a good team, good shooting team, a team that will push pace, will play a little up and down St. Louis, and the game went over the total, and it got into the one. Actually, it stayed under, but it got into the 140s. It was a higher total point game than we've seen in the past. So I like the over here, 136.5 with VCU and Davidson, and I like the road favorite off a loss as well. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, this is I want nothing here. 0 zilch total. I don't want that either. You mentioned going to the under. It could get over. I want nothing to do with it. Davidson to me is so inconsistent. This team's 5-5 at home. I just can't back them. I don't know what I'm going to get out of them from game to game. VCU, the better team. It's just you're down to lay it here with them. Maybe look at them first half. You think they come out strong after the loss to be safe. But, yeah, I don't want it.
All right, Clemson and Boston College now. Next up, we've got Clemson 4.5-point road favorites in this one, and the total currently sitting at 137.5 across the board. Clemson, narrow victory, but a victory. They hung on for dear life against Florida State on Saturday, but the bottom line is they got a victory. That is all that matters. 82-81. Boston College blown out by Virginia over the weekend, 76-57. That was a reminder to me, if you're going to back Boston College, think about doing so more at home than on the road. At home, they've been a pretty good team, winning and covering in a lot of these games. We'll see if that carries over here to this game against Clemson. It is worth noting, though, Clemson last year here in BC beat them 82 actually it was last year. Yeah, 2 meetings last year here in BC. It was 70-60 in favor of Clemson. Clemson's pretty good, though. I mean, this has been a really solid team. Chase Hunter's been really good for them, obviously leading them at the point guard spot. No question about that. Hunter Tyson's been solid as well. And keep in mind, we do have some injuries here on the BC side, or at least we did in the last game. It looks like they might actually have Brevin Galloway, Alex Hemingway potentially back in this game. And they've also got DeMar Langford Jr. questionable with a knee injury, and he exited that game last time out. So keep an eye on that. Some injuries here. Actually, injuries for Clemson, injuries for Boston College as well. Galloway and Hemingway, I should say, on the Clemson side. Langford for Boston College. We'll see who's in the lineup. But I'll tell you what, Boston College, though, has been more than good enough and more than gritty enough and feisty enough at home where I'd pump the brakes personally on laying points on the road with Clemson. I have a slight lean to BC, but I don't know if I'll get involved in it. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, Clemson. I mean, with the win, sneaking it out, Florida State still covered, but they just keep winning. Man, I want more with Boston College. This seems like a flat spot for Clemson. Yeah. 4.5 is tough. You talked about the injuries to both sides. Does Galloway go? You had mentioned the question marks with Langford. When we talk about BC, this is where we want them, is at home. They are a little bit better. Total's tough. Maybe it's a little bit too high. I don't know, because I want to lean under, but this could get over. So it was tough for me. But if I had free bet here, I'd look under, and I would take Boston College. It's just these injuries and everything else is kind of keeping me off.
Yeah, they've been trending over the total. Definitely Boston College, but again, some of these totals have been lower than this one.
Pretty low.
Something you want to keep in mind. All right, Wake Forest and Duke. We've got Duke here laying 8 at home, 147 the total in this game. Duke coming off a huge beatdown over Georgia Tech. So much for the road woes. They finally get a win.
Well, Georgia Tech.
But Georgia Tech's awful. Yeah, Georgia Tech has been bad for a very long time. And they doubled them up. They doubled them up, 86-43, 43-point victory for Duke against Georgia Tech in that game. Now they return home and face a Wake Forest team that beat Duke earlier this season in Winston-Salem. There, 81-70 was the final score in favor of Wake in that game over Duke, winning outright as 6.5-point dogs. Here's the thing, though. I mean, Duke's laying 6.5 on the road at Wake Forest, and here they are in the rematch laying 8 at home. So there's obviously been a big adjustment toward Wake, big adjustment up to Wake, and a big adjustment down on Duke, because clearly, like, Duke was laying 6.5 on the road at Wake in December, and now they're laying 8 at home in this game. So clearly you can see that they are, devaluing Duke a little bit. This is tough. I mean, Duke's certainly in revenge, but if you look at Duke as home favorites, I mean, they've been worse on the road, but Look at their recent home games. Pitt, they won by 8. Miami, they won by 2. The Florida State game was their one
Yeah.
game where they blew you out at home. But the last two, I mean, 2-point win, 8-point win, they didn't cover either as home favorites. Not me. I'm still not ready to lay 8 with Duke. I'd probably lean over again here with Wake Forest. I mean, it's unbelievable just how this team is just an over machine. It was 151 points in the first meeting this season. Last year, we saw 150 in the game between them here at Cameron Indoor. It went over the total as well. So I'd lean Wake, but I think the total's the better bet, over 147. What do you think here, CMAC?
With the total, but they see it. Obviously this is into the line. This 143, something like that, 42 would seem a lot better. But 16-6, 10 straight overs for Wake. It's just been kind of an auto bet, I think. Yeah, and I think you got to look at it here. Wake's been better on the road. Duke with the big win. It seems like such a good Duke spot here at home. And there's a few of these games like this today, but I don't want to lay points with Duke right now, not even at home, not to win by 9. And they might, and games in the past when Wake's come here, they've lost by like 12 or 14. That could happen, but there have been close ones as well. And, Blue Devils not good against the number Wake Forest has, so I'd lean the points.
They only lost by 2 last year at Cameron Indoor, Wake Forest, against this Duke team, 76-74. So, yeah, I'm taking the point. I probably will have something on the +8 here on Wake. And Wake has been pretty good to me all season long. And the thing with Wake, too, is I think they're going to be angry. I don't think they're going to like the way they blew that game against NC State on the weekend. They had a great first half. It's kind of typical of Wake. They've had a couple games like that. Great first half, can't close. The LSU game way back early in the season. So keep that in mind.
I like how they've looked, too. But whether it's been home or road lately, they haven't had too many of those horrible second halves where we were like, just stay on them first half, where they, a little bit bad but I mean, the game ends up 2-point game. The Pitt game was a 2-point game. Virginia, they lose by 9. They're in them, beat Clemson at home. So that'd be the only way I could go.
I'd take Wake in a heartbeat in this game before I take Duke. I know that for sure. All right, next up, Texas A&M, Arkansas. Arkansas, 3.5-point home favorites, 137 the total in this game. Of course, Arkansas, a valiant effort. Arkansas has had kind of a disappointing stretch lately, but they gave Baylor a pretty tough game over the weekend, losing by 3. They did beat Ole Miss and LSU at home, but you're not playing those teams now. You're playing A&M. A&M is a pretty good basketball team. They're 9-1 straight up in their last 10 games. If you look at the meetings last year between these two teams, we had a 76-73 Arkansas overtime win against A&M. We saw A&M win at home against Arkansas, 86-81. And then in the tournament, the SEC tournament, A&M blew out Arkansas, 82-64. And A&M has covered 7 in a row against Arkansas. So I'm on the underdog here, the road dog Aggies in this spot. I think it's worth a look. I think they've clearly had a good matchup advantage here against Arkansas. They've, like I said, covered 7 straight. The only Arkansas victories, the victory in the last 3 head-to-head meetings since the beginning of last year is a 3-point win in overtime. So this has not been an easy matchup for the Razorbacks. And if you buy into series history, not only 7 straight point spread covers for A&M, 7 straight overs in the head-to-head series between A&M and Arkansas as well. Yet this total is going down. And look, I get it. A&M pretty solid defensively. Arkansas's offense has kind of hit the shits the last 3 games, and they've gone under in those 3 games. But I'm going to take a small bet on the over here. I mean, I can't, like I say, I defer to when the series history is that strong to the over, even with current form kind of dictating, it's probably hit or miss whether this game goes over 136. I'm more than willing to still give the over a shot here at 136, just a series history type of bet. So, but because neither offense is lighting it up right now, I'm going to keep that a smaller bet. But I like A&M. That's the better bet here, in my opinion. Plus 3.5. What do you think here, CMAC?
That's the thing. Do you think these offenses kind of break out of it? I mean, pretty good scoring and efficient inside, but they both don't shoot it well. Both defend the 3 well. Arkansas, not a great free throw shooting team. A&M, 75%, pretty good. I lean the dog. This one's, I've thought a lot about this game, looking at it all day long. I just think the game would be tighter. I like how Arkansas played against Baylor, especially early in that first half on the weekend. But But yeah, and also I lean the other way. It's just tough. In the end, I stayed off the total. I'd be on the under if I was looking at this one.
All right, next up we got.
But your head to head, real quick, that was that's pretty. But unless they shoot it well, it could go over and it's golden. But I have to lean under.
All right, Virginia Tech and Miami now. Next up, we've got interesting ACC matchup here. Miami, 4-point home favorites, 143.5, 144 the total in this one. Virginia Tech back-to-back home wins against Duke and Syracuse, team that went through the rigor. I think Virginia Tech is undervalued right now because they just recently got Couture back for the Clemson game, and they probably could have beat Clemson there. And since they've gotten him back, they've been better offensively, clearly. Look at the difference. I mean, they could barely get out of the 70s. They could barely get to 70 or more points for a long time there. Now, all of a sudden, they got everybody back. Everybody's healthy. The offensive continuity's coming back. They've scored at 78 and 85 now, back-to-back games. Can they take that on the road, though? That's the one question. Those two were home games, but I think they can here. We know Miami can give up points. We've seen it. I mean, they had a home game against Syracuse. They won, but gave up 78, which is why they failed to cover against BC. They gave up 72. They've been solid defensively, but I don't think they're impenetrable. And certainly I like what I'm seeing right now from Virginia Tech. Finally, after some injuries and some struggles, they're healthy, and now they're starting to play the kind of basketball I expected Virginia Tech to be a pretty good team this year. So it was surprising to see them struggle the way they did. I'm on another road underdog here with the Hokies in this game. Lean over the total as well. What do you think, Conor?
I get it. This game to me was just the watch, maybe bet live, just pass. Miami 11-0 at home, but one thing, cause kind of their defense, these games can be tight, and they've been tight with Virginia Tech. I mean, really close games. A couple points, it seems like the last couple of years when they get together. You mentioned Couture being back, Padula, all these guys pretty good offensively. In a Miami game at this number, I'd lean over. I know that, what was it, the Pitt game just stayed, it stayed under 71-68. Even that Duke game, tough one for me all the way around. This one was just a pass. I don't want to be involved. I kind of lean Miami, but I really don't want to lay 3.5, 4.
All right, Nebraska and Illinois now in the Big Ten. We've got Illinois laying double digits. The total right now 135.5 in this one. It's been pretty rough sledding here lately for Nebraska. They've gone just 1-5 straight up in ATS. Their last, I don't know how they beat Ohio State at home, but they did. But they got blown out by Illinois already this year in Nebraska as well, 76-50. At Purdue, lost by 18, lost by 11 at Penn State, lost by 15 against Northwestern, and then lost by 19 their last game at Maryland. Can't back Nebraska. It's just they're playing some horrendous basketball right now. They cannot put the ball in the hoop. That's an issue. Defense is kind of falling apart the last. That defense, remember early in the season how much better they were. I think they're running out of gas. This looks like a team that's just hit a wall physically, and it's impacted their defense in a negative light. Illinois could name their score here, but if you look at Illinois, they got at Iowa coming up after this. A little bit of a bigger road game coming up. Certainly they're capable of blowing the doors off Nebraska once again. And keep that in mind. And last year, I believe when these teams played, it was just the one game actually in Nebraska, 81-71 Illinois in that game. Last time Nebraska made the trip here to Illinois, it was 86-70 for Illinois. So, yeah, I mean, Illinois, but I don't love laying this many points in a conference game, so I'm passing on it. What do you think here, Conor?
This is just a dead pass for me. I want nothing to do with it here. Illinois should take care of business, but I don't want to lay this many with them. You talked about Nebraska not being able to score, and earlier only 50. They have gotten over 60. Like you mentioned, they've given up 78, 82, all these numbers. And I was thinking maybe look at their team total, but their team total's 60. So I don't know if I want to go under there. They could just slip over that number. So I'm off. I'm off here all the way around.
All right, next up, we got UConn and DePaul in the Big East. UConn, 10.5, 11-point road favorites, 145.5 being the total here. Huskies and the Demons. Last year, these teams played twice at DePaul. It was 57-50 UConn. DePaul covered. It was at the end of the season in stores in the rematch. 75-68 UConn again. DePaul covered as 9.5-point dogs. I'm on DePaul. DePaul let me down against Marquette. Let's call it like it was. It was a big disappointment against Marquette on Saturday because I took them as a home dog. But I'm taking them again as a home dog. UConn's an easy team to go against right now. They're clearly way overvalued from that red hot start. They haven't done anything on the road that makes me excited about laying 11 with them in this spot. They lost at Seton Hall and blew a game where they led wire to wire as 5-point favorites. At Marquette, they lose on the road. At Providence, they lose on the road. At Xavier, they lose on the road. And like I said, DePaul's not great, but talking about asking this UConn team, which hasn't done much of quality lately, it's got one lousy win in their last 5 games against Butler, which isn't saying much. I still think DePaul's a little bit better than Butler. This is just too many points for me to trust the Huskies on the road right now. So I like DePaul here, plus 11. I mean, they let me down against Marquette, but it's another big opportunity for them to play we thought was a pretty good team. They're not playing like it right now, the Huskies, but nevertheless, I think DePaul swings back strong here, and all they got to do is just compete. And I think if they do that, both ends of the floor, just compete, you're going to be able to keep this within at least single digits here. So I like the Demons. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, just a lot of points here in the Yukon. There's just no way at this point in time. I don't think many people want to. I think someone threw it in chat. You don't want to back Yukon on the road laying double digits here like this. They've had what 6-7 days off. Yukon hasn't played in a while. It seems like Johnson needs to be big for DePaul, and we know they play better at home. You mentioned Saturday they kind of did let it go against Marquette, lost by 20, but I think Gibson, I think they can hang around because there's nothing showing me this UConn team from November has been around at all. Can they be the old team going there, win by 20? Maybe. But to me, I think you take the LA dog with DePaul or just don't play it.
All right, the last time these teams played, it was an epic. It was a classic. What will they do for an encore? The Sunflower State Showdown. Once again, Kansas State, Kansas. This time at Fog Allen after the last meeting, which was at the Little Apple there, the Bramlage Coliseum. And what an epic game. 83-82, Kansas State in overtime. What will they do tonight? Kansas laying 8.5 in this one, 145.5 the total. The people are betting Kansas. The line's gone up 7.5 to 8.5. Thinking Kansas are going to get their revenge. Kansas righted the ship against Kentucky, I guess you could say, with that 77-68 win. See, I did like Kansas in that game. I said on Saturday's show against Kentucky, I think this is the time for them because I didn't buy Kentucky's weak schedule. Kansas has gone through an absolute tough game, or tough schedule, I should say, in the Big 12. I actually thought Kansas was stepping down in class a little bit. Plus, Kansas, they had to remember in the back of their minds, a lot of those kids were on this team from last year. Kentucky went to Fog Allen and destroyed Kansas last year, and Kansas probably wanted to go to Rupp Arena at Lexington there on Saturday and return the favor, and they were able to do that. So they break their losing streak. So, yeah, I think they're back on track, but does that mean you want to lay 8.5 with them here against a terrific Kansas State team in a rivalry game? I know it's revenge, but if you're Kansas State, you still want to play well in this game. You had a good win against Florida over the weekend. It was actually one of your best defensive games of the season. Man, if they could get anything consistently defensively like that performance against Florida to go with how well they can score, they become a really, really dangerous team, K-State, moving forward, and particularly in March when the tournament starts. But no, this should be an excellent game. It's obviously one of the games I'm looking forward to. I really liked K-State in the first game, and obviously they won and covered. Not so much tonight, and they actually have a really bad history at Fog Allen. If you go back and look, it's been one blowout after another. 83-67, 64-59, 81-60, 74-51, 102-83 last year for Kansas here at Fog Allen. That's the one thing that might keep me off. I'm not going to lay it with Kansas, but that's what's going to keep me off taking K-State. I like the over, though. 145.5 seems a little low. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah. What are we going to get with the total? Kind of because K-State's kind of just back and forth, where they were scoring a ton. Now there's been a couple unders. So that'll be tough for me. At this spot, I don't want the total. What are we going to get? Kansas, not the deepest team back home. Good win against Kentucky. I just noticed all year the loss whether it was at home, but the close wins, they're 10-1 at home, which take care of business, but the number, they have not been good. But everyone's seeing exactly what you're saying. Just Kansas State's gone in there every year and just seems to get blown out. So this is why this is just stretching out, 8.5. So I'm going to be off. I don't want it. I mean, in a game like this with a team like Kansas State, if you looked at them all year, you're like, you've got to take these points, right? It's like this team's just, but I'd be leery. Maybe wait and look in game for this one. I still think if, like you had to give me a free bet, I'd take the points, but tough one.
And Kansas did get their defense back on track against Kentucky. It was one of their better defensive showings in quite some time. They held Kentucky to just 15% from three-point range. It was a pretty solid performance. They got a great offensive effort from Jalen Wilson for Kansas. He was excellent in that game. KJ Adams steps up. When they get KJ Adams, Jalen Wilson, Kevin McCullough, who's been a little bit banged up, but they get those guys and Grady Dick as well, all shooting the ball pretty well. That's
because sometimes it's too much just Wilson or Dick. Real quick, I'm just saying that there's not enough others, and it kind of they need more. Exactly.
Yep, and they did. It was not just Grady Dick. It was not just Jalen Wilson. You saw McCullough give you double figures against Kentucky. You saw KJ Adams give you double digits against Kentucky. You need that, and we'll see, especially tonight against K-State. We'll see if they can bring that solid support offense tonight to the table. All right, Vandy and Alabama. Back to the SEC we go for this one. Alabama, 15.5-point home favorites, 155 the total in this matchup. What do we get from Alabama? Because that's 2 games in a row now they failed to cover. They barely beat Mississippi State. Oklahoma, they had that horrible game, 93-69 on the road. Certainly, our guys aren't accustomed to being ranked second in the country this late in the year. They literally stormed the floor after the game. The team's going to be ready. Everyone's going to be ready. I don't think we realize we're getting everybody's A game, and our defense was nowhere close to where it needed to be to compete in this game. So Nate Oates was not happy after the Oklahoma game over the weekend. I wouldn't want to be Vanderbilt tonight necessarily, but Vanderbilt on the road has hung around in a lot of games. Missouri, Tennessee. Georgia, they won outright. Tennessee, Texas A&M, they lost by 6. If you buy into Alabama cooling off and Alabama regressing, then maybe Vanderbilt's worth a look here. I mean, you're getting 15. They've been a pretty good road underdog. Mm-hmm. If you think, wait a minute, this is where Alabama wakes up again and looks like the Alabama we saw in December and through the early part of January where they're just eviscerating teams left and right, then maybe you look Alabama, but especially first. Like if you like Alabama, I'd say take them first half. I think the first half's
still a big number,
but 8.5. Yeah, it is. It's still pretty big here. I think it's a tough game when it's all said and done. Totals wise, the games in Alabama between these two teams have flown over the total. 87-79, 82-78, 82-76. A lot of high-scoring games when they've played in Tuscaloosa, and they've actually trended under when they've been in Vanderbilt. Well, they're in Alabama tonight, so for that reason, lean over 155, but nothing overly strong for me for this one. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was on Vandy at home, and Bama just ripped them. We just saw how bad they got beat down by Oklahoma on Saturday. But normally these teams, the Dogs good in this series. The road team's really good, 19-6. The Dogs 20-7. And normally these teams play pretty tough. Obviously, Bama a better basketball team than the teams they've had in the past. And if I'd look to them, you just got to lay the big number. First half, that's where I'd be. They got to be a little bit pissed to look that way. In that first game, they were up by 20 and ended up losing by 12, still covered. But man, full game, I'd lean to Vandy. Vandy covered on Saturday. I had them I had a piece of them. They were in that where they lose by 6. So I think they could hang around if you have a maybe full game. Or if you think Bama rolls early, take them live and get even a better number. Yeah. Live or at halftime.
Yeah, definitely. Keep an eye on where that's going to go. All right, next up, we got UNLV, Colorado State in the Mountain West. Colorado State 3-point home favorites, 142.5 the total in this game. This is a rematch. These teams played just 2 weeks ago at Thomas and Mack Center, 82-81 in overtime for Colorado State, winning outright as underdogs. So this does set up to be a nice little redemption spot for UNLV. I want to take UNLV. because I don't think Colorado State's really all that great this year. I mean, and I like Nico Medved a lot, but really, other than that win against UNLV, this has been a bad month of January for his team. They got blown out at Nevada. Okay, they beat a bad Fresno team, but they lost to Air Force as favorites at home. That's a bad loss. Yeah, they did win UNL. That's the highlight of the month for them at UNLV, winning in overtime. But then they lose to San Diego State at home. They lose at Wyoming, who are crippled with injuries this year. And then they get absolutely blown out and annihilated in their last game at Boise State. So, this is not a good Colorado State team at the moment. And UNLV is not going to take them lightly. They lost in overtime at home to Colorado State just a couple weeks ago. So I want to take the Rebels, and I want to take them +3. But here's the problem. Who's going to suit up for them tonight? They got two major concerns injury-wise. Jackie Johnson, questionable. And the big one is Luis Rodriguez, averages 12.1 points per game for UNLV due to a leg injury. He's missed the last 2 games. We'll see if he plays tonight. Now, they won both of those games without him, so maybe they could survive. But they'd certainly prefer to have him on the floor. That being said, even with the injury concerns, I do like UNLV a little bit here. +3. I know the money's come in on Colorado State, but after a tight overtime loss at home to this team just 2 weeks ago, I think UNLV recovers. And they've actually had no problem going to Fort Collins and winning. Their recent track record here in this building, UNLV, is actually pretty solid. So I like UNLV here +3, even with those injury concerns. I'll go ahead and still bet them here in this spot. What do you think here, Conor? UNLV, Colorado State.
Yeah, I mean, UNLV, good win there at home. And that game, we'll get to it later with the Wolfpack, didn't score. I watched it, the last 350 or something, just nothing. And they lost 62. Just couldn't get a bucket. Colorado State, to me, always better at home. We know this, Fort Collins. And really, it's one guy. It's Isaiah Stevens. And I think he has to do too much of the load for them. Just tough for me. Rodriguez, still a question mark. UNLV, just back and forth. I don't know what they're going to do. I'll be off. You think this goes over? I mean,
I'd lean that way.
Rebels have, that last game stayed under.
Yeah.
But they didn't score. It looked like it probably would have crept maybe over, but no scoring late. So I don't know. I lean that way on this total, but I haven't bet.
This is an interesting one now in the Big Ten. Indiana, Maryland. Maryland 3-point home favorites, and the total right now sitting at 140 across the board. The money's come in on Maryland here, and it's that home court of Maryland's, which has been so strong this year. 11-1 straight up for Maryland at home, 9-3 against the spread. The only straight up loss to UCLA at home way back in December for Maryland. But no, they've been awesome at home. Excellent. Not easy to go against them, but Indiana, it ain't easy to go against them right now. They've won 5 in a row. They're healthy. Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, they've been excellent. They got everybody pretty much back on the floor for this team at the moment, except, of course, Xavier Johnson, but he's been out for a while. This team's really playing well. We cashed an easy winner with Indiana on the weekend against Ohio State, that Saturday night game on Fox, primetime television, and they just eviscerated the Buckeyes there at home from start to finish, 86-70. No, they're playing really well now, both ends of the floor. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an easy decision to go against either of these teams. It's not easy to go against Indiana right now, period. It's not easy to go against Maryland on this home floor where they've been just absolutely excellent. But I think I'd lean Indiana if I had to bet this game, just because I think they're still a little bit better squad than Maryland. I mean, Maryland's really a one-trick pony. They're great at home. They can't do a thing on the road. At least Indiana has shown you they've been able to go on the road and beat some decent teams. So, and they're getting points with them. So I don't know if I'll bet it because that Maryland home court is just so friggin' strong, but I do lean slightly Indiana plus the tray. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bet it either because Indiana have been very good. A little bit better in these few games. I mean, at Minnesota, they squeaked by but beat Illinois. But usually I don't want this team on the road for the most part. Indiana is a fade for me. Maryland, too, way better at home. And they seem to shoot it better at home other than the UCLA game because they struggle to score. That's the only thing I kind of hate laying the 3 with this team. They got to make their shots, and they do seem to play better here at home. So tough one for me in this one. I think you just lay off here unless you really like a side.
All right, next up we got Kentucky and Ole Miss. Kentucky 7.5-point road favorites, 135.5 the total in this one. I mean, the betting markets kind of beat me to this one. I mean, Ole Miss right now is they're Ole Piss right now, pretty much. That's what I call them, Ole Piss rebels. They're piss poor, as in piss fucking poor. That's what Ole Miss is, right? I mean, they're pathetic. I feel bad. They've quit on Kermit Davis. I think that's clear as day. I mean, they've been absolutely whipped. What is that? Three straight blowout losses for Ole Miss at Arkansas, Missouri, at Oklahoma State. Absolutely dreadful. And they've covered 1 point spread in their last 8 games. Kentucky, you'd think after the loss, bounce back spot. They've actually been been a good road team here the last couple. At Tennessee, won outright. Buried Vanderbilt 69-53 in their last road game. So, yeah, unfortunately, the whole market has moved, though, 5.5 up to 7.5. So the value's kind of gone, but I still like Kentucky. I still absolutely lean that way. Want nothing to do with Ole Miss. What do you think here, Con?
Yeah, I can't take a team that just is showing zero life. Can't, this only win was to a horrible South Carolina team. They can't score. To me, it's just take Kentucky or not. But as you mentioned, it's already moved a couple of points. You got to think Kentucky come out better after the loss to Kansas. Maybe look Kentucky first half here to take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be enough of a move because again, we got 3 straight double-digit losses for Ole Miss. Kentucky is certainly going to be angry, and if they play their A game, they're capable of handing them another double-digit loss. So you
Yeah,
might still be able to lay the 7.5 with no sweat.
exactly. Because I need a lot more with Ole Miss. I think
Yeah.
like doubles right now. Maybe even think about them even at home. That's just how bad they've been. So it's like I just roll Kentucky, and I'd probably look at them early to jump on them first half.
No doubt about that. All right, we got West Virginia and TCU next up here. TCU 2-point home favorites, 143 the total in this game. I like TCU. I know the money's coming in on West Virginia here. I get it. We've got Mike Miles out, which is obviously huge. We know how great he's been for the TCU Horned Frogs. We've also got Rondell Walker, Eddie Lampkin, questionable for TCU. So I get it. We could have a shorthanded group, but sometimes when this group, is down a couple key players, first game you get a ramp up effort from them, and I also like the idea of them bouncing back after a loss to West Virginia just recently. So yeah, I know there's injuries here, and that's not a big bet, but I like that TCU lost to this team and still have a way, I think, to find a way to get the job done here against West Virginia. West Virginia, they've won 2 in a row. Credit to them. Texas Tech, Auburn at home, 80-77 over the weekend. But going on the road here, even with Miles down, who's obviously significant, but TCU, I would still lean that way. If anything, you're getting some value with them now down to 2 because of some of the injuries they are dealing with right now. Still don't know if I fully trust. West Virginia's pretty much got to win this game on the road to be able to cash a ticket. I still don't know if I trust them to do that here. What do you think here, Connor? West Virginia, TCU.
That's where I'm at. I just don't trust West Virginia enough really to win. And the flip side, you mentioned Miles out. I don't really want him. They've been dealing with, Lampkin's been banged up for months now, kind of in and out. TCU, better team at home. I don't want this at all. West Virginia's played them well, but this team, I can't figure them out. They're decent against the glass. They struggle to score at times. They've looked better though lately. So maybe it's just they can go in there and sneak one out with no Miles. I don't want it too low of a number. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Northwestern and Iowa. Iowa 6.5, 7-point home favorites, 150.5, 151 the total in this game. Iowa destruction over Rutgers, 93-82 on Sunday. It was a very high-scoring affair, bouncing back from a couple of road losses. All of a sudden, this home floor for Iowa, they've won 4 in a row here at Carver Hawkeye Arena. But don't sleep on what Northwestern's doing right now. Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, 3 wins, 3 covers since they came back from that COVID pause. It's almost like it's revitalized and reinvigorated this Northwestern group. I'm taking a little Northwestern here, +6.5, +7. This is such a typical Iowa thing to do if they're life and death to win this game after a great win against a very solid Rutgers team. I've seen this team be inconsistent enough where I could see them just barely doing enough to get by here. And, I like what I'm seeing from Northwestern. Both ends of the floor, they've been very fluid. They've been making their shots. Their defense has been solid. They've also been trending over, 6 straight overs. I like the over here as well. The total's gone up from 148.5 to 151, but I agree with that move. I think we'll see points. I'm going to take a shot with Northwestern here. I've seen enough of this Iowa side and how sometimes they can play down and Northwestern's recent form warrants them, I think, in my opinion, or warrants me taking a shot with them here, getting 6.5, 7. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Someone mentioned on there. Yeah, Lampkin. I mean, he's question mark again. Their leading rebounder. We talked about that. I was on Iowa on Sunday, them in Georgetown, which was good. I just kind of went against Rutgers, who had been better on the road this year from the rack, and it worked out. I don't want to do it again. And now we see this stretch to 7. One thing is, though, Northwestern has gone there and gotten their ass whipped for the most part. This team is just a little team that's a little bit better. They beat Minnesota and Nebraska lately, and it's kind of a down Wisconsin team. Tough for me because I think it's Iowa again at home, but the number stretched out too much. I don't really want it. But I do agree with you a tad bit. It's over or nothing. I still think even getting this high, it could still get over.
All right, good stuff indeed. All right, Fresno State, Wyoming. We got 2 games left here on the marquee games. Wyoming up to 5 now. Home favorites, 129 the total in this game, which speaks volumes about where Fresno is right now. Because this Fresno State team enters this game in free fall right now, losing 5 of their last 6 games. Their only win was at home against UNLV. But I don't know about laying this many now with Wyoming. Still a banged-up group. I've given up on EK coming back at any time this year. But Wenzel still out. Kenny Foster, a back injury, so you've got some key absences there. I don't want to lay 5 now with Wyoming. That much I know, but I ain't back in Fresno either on the road after they went on the road to Boise and got bombed by 10 in that game. Fresno did beat Wyoming 58-53 just prior to the new year. It is a revenge spot for Wyoming. Like I said, I understand maybe laying a shorter number with Wyoming at 5. No, I'm out. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, too big. These teams just seem to play these games in the low 60s, whatever, and they're just ugly. I can't lay it with Wyoming. It's just something I can do. But the flip side, and Fresno, other than being at home, which had a few good home games this year, this team's not very good, and they haven't been great on the road. I don't have enough to even look Fresno's way, how bad they shoot, so I'm off.
All right, next up, it is Nevada, San Diego State here. Nevada hosting San Diego State in Reno. It is San Diego State 2.5 point road favorites, 138 being the total in this game. San Diego State with a 74-65 win against Nevada earlier this month at Viejas Arena. We'll see if Nevada can flip the script here in the rematch, taking on San Diego State. We've talked about Nevada being a heavy trending over team, something to keep in mind. San Diego State crushing San Jose State 72-51 in their last game. We'll see if they can keep the good roll going. Defensively, it was an excellent effort, but we have seen their defense against the better teams in this conference, the better offenses. They've had a few more struggles. New Mexico put a good number on them. Colorado State, same thing. Utah State, they won and covered against Utah State, but they still gave up 29-61 shooting in that game. I don't know if I'll bet the side because it's Nevada revenge, but I'm convinced at this number, it's not enough points to be getting Nevada. And San Diego State, to me, is still, I think, the better of these two teams. And you also look at the situation involving Nevada personnel-wise. They've got, obviously, the injury to Himes to worry about in the front court, averages double figures per game. Let's keep that in mind. The Aztecs have been able to go on the road and get some solid results. They beat UNLV, won and covered on the road. Colorado State won and covered on the road. Air Force won and covered on the road. They've been kind of a road warrior, the Aztecs. And I still think they're a little bit better than Nevada. So I'm off taking Nevada, even though I think situationally there's things to point toward them being at home in revenge. But I still think San Diego State's better. So that's why I'm not taking Nevada. I've leaned to the over, though. 138, it's close because, again, the last meeting between these two teams, it was 74-65, 139 points. This is right. The number's fair, but I think it might just sneak over the number. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, this opened up. Everyone kind of got on San Diego State, but I saw the 3 in the hook, and I took Nevada here. And then all of a sudden, right when that happened, I looked an hour later. Now we got a bunch of 2.5s. So there's some buyback that I think was too much. I want this team at home. 6-2-1, 10-0 at home. Obviously, when they went to San Diego State, they snuck in that number. And San Diego State, the better team, have done decent on the road, but bad teams here in the Mountain West. I'm rolling with Nevada here. I think they can get it done. These two teams aren't too different in a lot of categories. We talk about Nevada, a good free throw shooting team. Give me the Wolf Pack here. I got the 3.5. There's still some threes, a few threes out there. So I'm on them.
Connor liking Nevada here, a team that is looking to snap a 9-game losing streak to San Diego State. It has been a rough go.
Other than that, but at home, very tight games. Where
Yep.
they lost by 1, 3, 2.
Yep.
I think this is tight.
This is a good game.
I want
This is a really good watch, actually. I think probably CBS Sports Network. Most of these late night Tuesday, Wednesday Mountain West games are on CBS Sports or Fox Sports 1 or CBS Sports Network. Usually you'll find it on one of those two. It's probably where this game is tonight. But should be a good one. That's a good way to wrap up the Tuesday night watching that game. All right, good stuff. All right, Q&A and games we have not talked about that both of us are betting tonight. Connor, we'll start with you. Any games we haven't mentioned that you like on the board tonight?
No. There's a couple here. Quinnipiac has been nothing but money for me. But now they come out 12. I took a small shot with Marist. I got plus 11. There's some 10.5s. I didn't go crazy with it. But as soon as a team like that is playing so well and I backed them, huge number, I'm going to take a shot with the dog there. Obviously, what was the Toledo game? I still didn't get over. Toledo, you could look at their team total. I think they could score 90, right around there, 85, 90 in that one. That was about it. Louis Chicago, I don't want. Boise Air Force, I really didn't want that. So that's it.
Yeah, I kind of with you on that with Marist and Quinnipiac. And I follow that conference closely, the Metro Atlantic. And I always say road underdogs and double-digit road underdogs are never a bad look in that conference.
Quinnipiac's been so good.
Yeah.
They were just great. What was it the other day? I had them, and now I'm taking what I've been riding them too. So.
Yeah, it is. And it's a little bit of a tricky spot, too, after, a tough game with Iona. You come back home, you're facing a kind of a low, and they are a lowly team, 0-4 straight up in ATS the last 4. It's been rough for Marist, but feels like a lot of points in a conference like that. So, I don't mind that look there. Akron, Buffalo, I lean over there in that one with the Zips and the Bulls. I'm with Connor on the over thought with Toledo and Miami. I think that's a good over. Someone mentioned St. Louis. I like St. Louis there, only laying 4 against Fordham. I think the Billikens are going to go on a run here. They're showing signs of it. This team is pretty good. They've got lots of talent, good shooting, good defensive team, play with pace. This team is starting to get their shit together at the right time of year, and they're better than Fordham. I think 3-4 points just to lay that short price with St. Louis. I do like that. That is a bet of mine as well, the Billikens laying the points against the Fordham Rams. You mentioned Marist. I think they're worth a look there against Quinnipiac in the Metro Atlantic. What else have we got? I like Ball State Bowling Green over. The total 153.5 is where it is right now. I think that game goes over the number. And let me see, what else did we? There's not really. That's pretty much it. I think we talked about everything else essentially. Almost took Loyola Chicago, almost, but I'm still on my no bet list. They're still on my no bet list, I should say, Loyola Chicago. Even though I'm tempted to go against Dayton, laying that many points, I ended up passing. So there you go.
Real quick, I don't mind a shout out to Lucas Ryan, gifted our membership. Don Play got it. The Boise State, for the most part, what was that Fresno game? They've been more an offensive team. I don't blame his team total look there, especially if you don't want to lay it. Boise been scoring points, Babeno,
yep.
Regularly. So yeah. I like that play a lot.
And even Air Force, the opponent has been pulling them into some overs lately with Air Force because they don't play fast. They play as slow as a snail, Air Force. And yet the opponent is still pulling them into some overs. So That's the way it's been going lately. So, yeah, you might want to look maybe over or Boise team total over in that one. So, yeah, I think that's it. Yep, that's everything. Good stuff. I
What
have no.
about
I leaned to the over there, Robert, with the Northern Illinois over, but I didn't bet it. I passed on it.
what about St. Louis? Everyone's talking about this game. I can't figure Fordham out
I
all
like
year.
St.
They've now
Louis.
been playing better. Me too. I'm just gonna be off. Yeah, because Fordham hasn't been good. They lost there. Now they've come back, won a few. St. Louis looks like they've been playing better and better on the road, which I've never really been big on them, but they seem to be clicking right now. Yeah, so I'm off.
There we go. All right, good stuff. But yeah, Billikens, I think again, if the number gets any higher, I'd ease up. But I think it's just -3 now, -4. It's a playable number for a better St. Louis team to beat Fordham there. All right, best bets coming up. Hit the like button. 239 live viewers. Hit the like button. Oh, before we get to best bets, Pubapalooza 2 in a couple months, March 24 to 26. Golf tournament, par 3 golf tournament, poker tournament on Friday, Saturday. Of course, NCAA tournament action will be at Southtown 101, taking it all in, placing our bets, hopefully winning them. UFC San Antonio at night, Retama Horse Race Park. Looking forward to that on Sunday as well. We resuscitated the business there, saved them from bankruptcy last year, and we'll help them out again this year with Palooza too. March 24 to 26. Good stuff. Looking forward to that for sure. All right, we got best bets coming up right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101, and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports, 20% off and free shipping with promo code PubSports. The sides in those games, I have nothing. I don't want to lay it on the road with Akron, and I don't like Buffalo at only 2.5. So it's a pass there. I didn't bet Kent State Central Michigan, but Central Michigan has had a weird way of covering as double-digit dogs against Kent. They're brutal right now.
This is a big number.
Central Michigan.
Yeah.
They're really bad, but I can't get over the fact that they've been tough on Kent State. And I'd hold my nose and take the Chippewas there, plus 18.5.
Big number.
Yeah.
Real quick. Kent State, when they clamp down on defense too, I'd have to look up Central Michigan's team total, maybe look that way. Someone mentioned the unders. The South Carolina game, I think, we have a low total there, 126, but I also think Babana likes the over. I thought you mentioned, but I leaned this under in the A&M Arkansas game at 137. Just a couple unders I was throwing out there.
Yeah, I'm the other way on that total, but only because of the series history. I mean, current.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Yeah, that's all over with A&M and Arkansas. But best bets, Conor Mac. Let's wrap this shit up. What do you got here for best bet tonight?
Yeah, I got a couple more. I was going to go total. Total's been good, but I bet this. I told you guys I'm on it. Nevada plus 3.5. Go Wolfpack at home. Grab a 3. I think they cover tonight. It seems like everyone's against me, so but I'm on it.
It's a good late night game. San Diego State, Nevada. Nevada plus the 3.5. It's a 2.5, 3 right now against San Diego State, but still playable. Best bet there for Conor Mac. My best bet, undervalued. I think morphing into the team I thought they would be most of the season, but they're playing better now. 2 big home wins. They've got to show they can do it on the road now, but they're healthier. That offense is flowing again, and I think they go to Miami tonight, and if not win the game outright, come very close, and you can get +4 with them. Virginia Tech, the Hokies, Virginia Tech +4 against Miami for my best bet here for this Tuesday. college basketball card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Everyone in the chat, thanks for watching. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And we'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday, for another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Looking forward to it. For Conor, Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again on Wednesday for another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off in the Southbound 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.